You've heard the saying, better late than never. Here I am, late, but not never. And sorry to disappoint you all. I was just editing, I was working on something. I was editing something. And I realized while I was editing it, it was written so poorly, and I realized it was actually a lecture that was transcribed and somewhat edited, and I was reading it. This thing is really not written well. So I got hung up doing that, and then I shaved. That's why I was late. Shaving. That was my fault. Okay. I need some cables. Don't go away. I have to find some cables, which I don't see right now. Found one cable. Okay, we found one cable, but then we found the other cable. Hare Krishna. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hold on. This is what I should have been doing 15 minutes ago. But I think we'll just avoid the kirtan. And then we'll start. Ta-da! Okay, now it should sound much better, right? Sounds better, right? Okay. So, yesterday, I read an amazing story. And I don't want this class to be only this story, because I think it's really important that we try to read at least a fair amount from Prabhupada's books. I think that's important. Don't you agree? Yeah. So I want to do that. But this story has some really amazing aspects to it. And I think some of you know this story. It's about a devotee who had all kinds of remembrances of her past life. All of which, when she did the research, what she remembered, and she did the research indicated that this person she was remembering actually existed, was actually a devotee. She interviewed people who knew that devotee. That's interesting, right? So I want to read that story, or read aspects of that story. And I think one of the most interesting things about that story is she, in her past life, was a brahmachari. And how she ended up as a brahmacharini, but she always felt like a brahmachari. It's really interesting. So we're going to save that for a little bit later, so don't go away. Now I have to bring up the document we're going to read from today, which is the same document we ended up leaving off reading from on Friday. The Time of Death, the document is called. And we were reading about Dhritarashtra. And remember what Dhritarashtra said when Vidura gave him the right instruction. Then he said, "What you say is correct, but I'm not ready to hear it." And what a bad example. Or we could say, Ratnavali. Oh, what a good example that was for us. What you say is correct. I'm just not in the right place. I can't do it. So we had discussed that dilemma. It's nice to look at all the things that we know we should be doing that we're not ready to do, and kind of analyze them. Like why, when, how will I get ready? When will I get ready? What do I have to do? Why? I think why is a really important question. Why am I not ready? Why? What am I afraid of? Every time is, we can't do something, or we know we should. I don't want to say every time, but usually there's a fear. If someone says, I can't do this, I often ask, what are you afraid of? Why can't you do it? And they didn't always realize there was a fear there. And then they start to look at the fear. And when you look at your fears, often what you find is that your fears are not really validatable. There's no evidence upon which you can build a strong case for your fear. It's just a fear. Sometimes they say fear is false evidence appearing real. So, I think that really is quite accurate. False evidence appearing real. It's often like that. And so a lot of times we're just afraid, or we're attached, or for some reason something is blocking us, but there's actually a fear there. And if we recognize the fear and say, okay, what am I afraid of? Just ask that question, what am I afraid of? And why am I afraid of it? And the more you analyze it, the more you'll see that there's not really a reason to be fearful. And oftentimes you'll find there's reasons not to be fearful. But of course, it's often a lack of faith. Yes, that's a problem. But that's something, at least if we recognize, we can start working on. So this, I find that the Shastras they're interesting in the sense that they don't just describe behaviors which we should emulate, describe behaviors which we are already doing, which we should stop doing. And so it's, sometimes it's hard to see yourself when you're making a mistake or doing the wrong thing. But when you see it in another person, then it's easier to observe. And so one of the things that is useful to do when we're studying the Shastra, especially when we're studying about people who are doing the wrong thing, is to recognize that the people who are doing the wrong thing, Krishna has put them there as a mirror for us. And normally we look at someone like Dhritarashtra and we think, oh, Dhritarashtra, he's so foolish. He, look what he did. He could have just let the Pandavas have their kingdom. They didn't want much. Instead, this whole battle was fought. He lost all his sons. What a fool. And so we tend to look at it from a distance, like that's him. It has nothing to do with us. But actually, what's better to do is ask yourself, what about Dhritarashtra or Ravana or Duryodhana or any of these characters? What about them exists within me? What can I find in myself that they're exhibiting? And then you get some objective, because you're looking at another person, so it's easier to see their fault. But then if you put it back and say, which of their faults, to whatever degree it may be, do I have? And a lot of times we don't notice it because Krishna is using these persons in very extreme ways. They're extremely obnoxious or extremely demoniac or extremely obstinate or extremely foolish. So when we look at them, we think, well, that's them, it's not me. And that's true, but it's not entirely not us. There's aspects of what's in them that is in us, and so we're most supposed to see that. And so what do we see in Dhritarashtra? Well, we discussed this yesterday. We saw in Dhritarashtra this person who understood that he was doing the wrong thing, but why couldn't he do the right thing? Well, when you study the story, and you could imagine also, even without studying the story, why anybody can't do the right thing. He was saying, he's attached, or he was saying it, or it was observed that he was very attached to Duryodhana, and he just couldn't interfere with Duryodhana's desires. That would just break his heart. He couldn't be the father that he needed to be. In fact, Vidura, I think, if I remember correctly, maybe someone can confirm this, I think Vidura told Dhritarashtra when Duryodhana was born, he should be killed, because if he's not killed, he's going to destroy your kingdom. And you think that's a pretty radical instruction, and what father would take that instruction? But there is the instruction that to save a village, or in this case, to save a kingdom, you could sacrifice the life of somebody. And so that's what Vidura was recommending. Sacrifice the life of one son to save the others. He had 100 sons, so you could save the other 99. And they were all killed in the battle of Kurukshetra, so Vidura's words were wise. So the point is that do something. If I know I should and I can't, obviously there's either a fear, as we discussed, or an attachment, and the fear and the attachment go together because the fear is of giving up what I'm attached to. So there's some attachment. So we ask ourselves, well, what is it that I'm attached to that's making it difficult for me to do what I know I should do? Now, one other thing I want to say, and I think this can help us a lot, and I've said this before, but not all of you have heard it, and it's really worth discussing and hearing again. When you study Shastra, when you hear from learned devotees, when you hear from Prabhupada, when you hear from your spiritual master, you hear about what is proper action and what is improper action. A verse in Gita, Krishna says, you know what to do and what not to do by the injunction of Shastra. Okay, so there is extreme value in knowing what to do and what not to do, obviously. We're lost in the material world. What way, how do we get out of here? Well, this is what you do to get out, and this is what, if you do this other thing, you'll never get out. You'll stay here forever. Okay, that's useful information. What to do by the injunction of Shastra. I'm trying to think of that verse. Karya. I think it's karya, akarya. What to do, proper action, improper action. What to do and not to do. Now, but there is a side effect, like drugs which help you have side effects. And for some devotees, there's going to be a side effect. And the side effect of knowing what to do, as you can imagine, is the guilt that manifests when you don't do it. And it's almost like, I wish I didn't know that I'm supposed to do this because I'm so attached, I can't do it. Or I'm afraid to do it. And if I didn't know that I had to do it, I wouldn't be feeling so bad right now. And so when you think about this, everything you learn has the potential to make you feel bad if you don't do it. And it's almost like, when you think about it, it's almost like, well, maybe I should stop learning. Of course, that would be foolish. But for the sake of discussion, I'd say, maybe I should stop learning, because by learning, there's so many things that I'm hearing I should do, but I'm not going to do. And we all have different psychology, but for some of us, it's really difficult to not do what we know we should do. It weighs heavy on us. And for some of us, it's more subconscious. And for some of us, we process it. And I would say, as you're hearing, there are going to be things that are going to be difficult to do. And you have to process it, not in a rationalization process, but in an acknowledgement that I need to work on this. And so the worst thing we can do is just avoid it, try to push it, suppress it, repress it, and say, I don't want to think about it because I feel so guilty because I'm not doing it. This is the absolute worst thing we can do. So it's a very unhealthy psychology to do that. And it's understandable why we would do it, because we think, oh, this is so important, I should do it. My Guru Maharaj wants me to do it, but I can't. So naturally, I feel guilty. Rather, we should at least acknowledge the difficulty I'm having, and due to the attachments, due to the fears, and then make some plan incrementally, as we discussed last week. Incremental plans are sometimes the only plans we can make, because we can't make a big leap, but we could take a step. Let me take a step towards the fulfillment of that plan. Yesterday, the last few days, or maybe 3 weeks now, 2 or 3 weeks, I've been reviewing documents that I have written for prospective disciples. When somebody asks me, will you be my guru? I want them to understand what it means to be a disciple. And so one of the sections was about illicit sex, because sometimes that is a little confused. What does it mean that you're taking a vow, no illicit sex? So I had to be very realistic about it. Number one, Prabhupada said, and defined illicit sex as no sex except for procreation, and after chanting 50 rounds. That was the standard. And we know, all of us know, or most of us know, that that standard is not always easy to maintain 365 days a year, 24/7. But we try. And so the message I gave was, this is the standard, this is what Prabhupada wants. We know that it is a huge challenge. But if sometimes we slip, or we find difficulty in perfectly following it in all situations, it should be that because this is the standard, I need to come to the point of following this standard. And if I can't follow perfectly now, then the question is, what's the next step? How can I get a step closer? That is the mood. And so, a certain type of devotee will, just because of their mentality, just say, no, whatever this instruction is, I will follow. And we should be that way. But this particular instruction, because it is so difficult to perfectly follow, we find that it's not uncommon for devotees to slip, or not even uncommon for devotees not to try to follow it perfectly, just saying, I can't. And so I'm not this or condoning this. I'm just saying this does exist. But then what do? You could feel bad, and you should feel bad to some degree, but I think better than just feeling bad is to make a plan. Okay, what can I do? This is my state, my existential state. This is my psychological state. This is my reality. I've tried, and sometimes I've failed. What do I do? You ask yourself that question. What can I do? What is there anything incrementally I can do to get closer to the ideal of what Prabhupada asked? That's how we process it. So what I've found is that if you don't do that, you're going to feel guilty. And some of us are good at rationalization, so we don't feel guilty. But I don't think that's the way, personally, I don't think that's the way to deal with it. That's the healthy way to deal with it. The healthy way to deal with guilt is, if you can't immediately solve the problem, is incrementally act in a way to get closer to what you should be doing. Because if you do that, guilt goes away, because you realize, I'm doing the absolute best I can do under these circumstances to get to this position. And I'm making gradual progress. I'm taking steps. And whenever you take steps towards a solution, it relieves a lot of the anxiety or guilt or whatever negative emotion surrounds that failure, because you're actually doing something to reach that goal. And you can see that if I continue day by day, week by week, month by month, month by month, year by year, decade by decade, doing this, I will reach it. I will be successful. And knowing that, it's almost as if you are successful now, because it's just a matter of time. And you realize you're doing your best. And that's what helps you process the guilt. And I've given workshops on guilt, and guilt is a natural byproduct of failure for most of us. And the reality that I present in these workshops, which I think is so important, is that because we're practicing Krishna consciousness, then we have a higher standard to meet than people in the secular world. And because the standard we're trying to meet is often difficult, or extremely difficult, or in some cases maybe impossible in our present state to perfectly achieve, there's more of a tendency for people like ourselves who are practicing such high standards to feel guilty, as opposed to having lower standards which you can meet. And then what's your standard? Oh, whatever you feel like, just do it. What are you going to feel guilty about? Nothing, because everything's okay, right? Which is probably why those philosophies are so popular, because it just solves the guilt problem. But for us who are taking to a spiritual life, then obviously there's going to be guilt when we fail. And we are going to fail because we've just raised the bar much higher than it was before we were devotees. And so we're gradually coming up to the standard. Now, if you redefine the word failure or success, then it can also help you deal with the guilt. If we're making incremental steps to achieve something, but we haven't achieved it, then rather than say, I've failed, just say, I'm on my way to success. And it has a different effect. Words have a different effect on our consciousness. So the point is, and you probably know this well, that being surrounded by very high ideals and instructions it's the perfect soil for guilt to grow. And guilt can be very debilitating if there's too much of it. It can be also inspiring to change. So one of my experiences, and I'm sure you've had this experience also, is what could be more painful than knowing what to do? It's very clear, you know what to do. It's like there's no doubt, this is what I should be doing. But due to fear or attachment or some other reason, you don't do it. What can be more painful than that? Then you have to live your life kind of in this unaligned position, you know you're a hypocrite. And then extend that beyond that. If you're in that position, it's very, very painful. But it even becomes more painful when you have to teach people what to do and you're not even doing it. That's like, it's like putting salt on the wound. So when I was meditating on this, I found that this is a very strong impetus to improve oneself. And just in the realization that if I don't, I have to carry this burden. It may be subconscious, but I always feel like becoming aware of the subconscious world is very important. Because when you become aware of this subconscious burden that you're carrying, then you realize that this is very painful. This is very uncomfortable emotionally. And I'm just trying to neglect it and suppress it. And I always say, don't neglect it, don't suppress it, don't repress it. Experience it so that you understand what you're carrying around. And often what will happen when you experience it is you'll realize that I would be better, I would be happier doing the difficult things I need to do to achieve what it is I need to achieve, that very thing that I feel guilty that I'm not achieving, to make the steps to go forward would actually be such a relief and ultimately easier than carrying this emotional burden. And that sometimes just becomes the thing that pushes you over the fence to do that. And it's a very simple principle. It's like what pain is worse? The pain of knowing I should do it and not doing it? Or the actual pain of doing it? And I would say, and let's see if you agree, this pain of knowing what to do and not doing it It's one of the most intense pains. It's much more painful than actually the pain level of doing it. It's about here. The pain level of not doing it is like, well, get my hands like that. Okay. The pain level of knowing I should do it and not doing it is like here. The pain level of actually doing it is much lower. There's all the fear around doing it makes us perceive that doing it is going to be painful, and somehow if we can suppress this pain, kind of mask it, it doesn't exist anymore. See? My hand's gone. It's not actually there. Look at the pain's gone. It's not really there. See? I don't know where it went. I can't find it. Yeah, that's what we do. So, good old Dhritarashtra has taught us some amazing lessons in this Leela. So let's read what he said one more time. Let me find that. Yeah, so this paragraph is on the bottom of page 35. Maharshi Dhritarashtra was planning some intrigue to cheat the Pandavas. Kamini, that's the same quote we had put up last week. I want to read it again. Maharaj Dhritarashtra was planning some intrigue how to cheat the Pandavas in favor of his own son. So Krishna sent his uncle to advise him to not do that. He understood, but he replied, my dear Akrura, it's got to be Vidura. My dear Vidura, whatever you are saying is quite all right. Quite all right means what you're saying is true. But, remember that? I know I should do but. Okay, write down today, or get out a piece of paper after class and write down all your I know I should buts and work on them. My dear Vidura, whatever you are saying is quite all right, but it does not stand in my heart. What does that mean? It does not stand. What you're saying is true, but I can't do it. It doesn't stand in my heart. I'm too attached to my son. So here's your instruction, and this glass of attachment to my son just doesn't let your instruction go into my heart. So, I cannot change my policy. I have to follow this policy and let whatever it may come. So he's saying, this is really interesting, and this demonstrates. Remember last week, or I don't know if it was your class or at another class, I was joking. I was about to say something and I completely forgot. I couldn't remember for the whole class. I was just in mid-sentence and I forgot. And the room was very hot and I was a bit tired, which did help to forgetting. And I said, just see, I've manifested Bhagavad Gita in front of you. I have forgot what I was going to say. And Krishna says, I take away your remembrance. I say, Krishna just took it away. Bhagavad Gita right here. So Dhritarashtra is living Bhagavad Gita. That's not actually, it's like you could do something stupid and say, yes, Prabhu, I'm living Bhagavad Gita. I'm a mudha. See, I'm Bhagavad Gita realized. You can learn Bhagavad Gita. Just look at my life. You'll learn everything about the mudha. I'm living Bhagavad Gita. Okay, we don't want to do that. But Dhritarashtra is living Bhagavad Gita in the bad way. Krishna says lust covers knowledge. Krishna says you lose intelligence when you become attached. We know all these verses, right? Dayato vishayam punsam, when you meditate on sense gratification, become attached, you can't give it up. Lust, kama, krodha, kama, esha, krodha, esha, rajagun, samudva. Vidyanam hi abharinam, it's your enemy. Abhritam jnanam, it covers your knowledge. There's all these nice Sanskrit words to show how attachment, just like, it's like there's It's almost like, I imagine it like this, and even I heard non-devotees speak like this. It's like you have these openings in your brain, right? Okay, this one lets in intelligence, then it closes. No intelligence. Intelligence is shut off. You act like an animal, basically, right? So the intelligence is open, okay, right? Detached, so you're detached. Okay, this is called hand teaching. This is detachment. This is your intelligence valve. Your intelligence is open, detachment. Attachment, what happens to your intelligence? It closes. You can't think straight. And you've had that experience for sure. When you're hearing with the sadhus, you become more detached and your intelligence becomes stronger. When you become more attached materially, your intelligence, it closes, it doesn't work. So basically, Dhritarashtra, or Prabhupada saying, or Dhritarashtra is saying, this is even more amazing, Prabhupada, it's not a commentary. What you're saying is right, but we'll put it. I'll put it more succinctly. What you're saying, Vidura, what you're saying is absolutely right, but I'm so attached, I cannot follow your instruction. So whatever is going to happen, however I'm going to suffer, just let it happen. Have you ever said that to yourself? You say, I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it, and like whatever is going to happen, I'll worry about it later. Have you ever said that? I don't need to answer the question, because if you have a material body and a material mind, at some point in your life, before or during the time you're a devotee, you've said that many times, right? So that's what's going on. That's how attachment affects us. Isn't that interesting? It closes the valve of intelligence, and I think this is so important for us. There's a dog out there. There are 2 dogs out there next door, checking them out. Yeah. So sometimes I think dogs kind of get bored. They just walk around smelling grass all day. It looks kind of boring. I don't know. They're looking for something. So how important is it for us to have our intelligence very clear, crystal clear? And in order to, so everyone, it's like, why should I be detached? Well, this is a good lesson. Why should you be detached? So your intelligence functions. Because if we get too attached, intelligence shuts off. Okay, what if I'm attached? We've talked about this before. Use it for Krishna. If you're attached, use it for Krishna. But don't use it for sense gratification, because you won't be able to understand Krishna consciousness. Like, what could be worse than having an attachment that's so strong that words just hit this plate in front of you and they just bounce off? So you're reading, you're hearing. You ever feel like that? You're reading, you're hearing, you go to a class and you walk out, say, that was a good class, and inside you're thinking, yeah, but I could never do that. So you just wasted an hour listening to that good class, because you've got a plate. I'm protecting myself from Krishna conscious knowledge. Hare Krishna. I mean, like, that's really foolish. But that's what happens when we're attached. It's like we don't realize it, but we've got a defense mechanism. Okay, I'm attached. And Bhaktisiddhanta said the Guru's words are they're like a knife, or in this example, the Guru's words are like you're trying to break that plate you have over your heart. And with some of you, I just go like this, boom, and it breaks. And some of you, I'm being banging and banging and banging, and it's like, doesn't crack. You got a really strong plate, some extremely strong plate. And he's like, I'm not letting anything through, only let what I want to let through, nothing else. And the knowledge doesn't get through. And that plate is the plate of attachment. Interesting, isn't it? And so, as we said, with that plate of attachment, then what happens to your intelligence? It shuts off. Now, the interesting thing, Gyanam Abritam, your knowledge is covered. Krishna says your knowledge is covered. Krishna says, I take away. Gyanam Apohanam, your knowledge, I could take it away. Smriti, I could give it. You could remember it, I could take it away. In the detached state, you remember. In the attached state, you forget. And there's a psychological reason. This is really interesting. If I want to do something which is not Krishna conscious, but I'm attached to doing it, and that does happen to one degree or another. If I want to do something, it's not Krishna conscious, I know it's a waste of time. I know I shouldn't do it. But I want to do it because I'm attached. Okay, what happens at that point? At that point, you do not need scriptural knowledge. You need to forget scriptural knowledge, because if you remember scriptural knowledge, you're not going to be able to do that, and you want to do it. So why would you want that knowledge if you want to do something which that knowledge tells you not to do? Just like you see with teenagers, their parents will tell them not to do something that they want to do, and they don't want to listen to their parents, because their parents are going to tell them. You say to your son or daughter, we need to talk. I don't want to talk. But you don't even know what I'm going to talk about. Yes, I do. You're going to tell me not to do this, and I don't want to hear it. Just don't tell me. You're going to tell me how it's bad. You're going to tell me how it's wrong. You're going to tell me I shouldn't do it. You've told me before. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, that's called real life in the material world. That's called family life. So get yourself married, find the right girl or guy, have some kids, and wait till they're about 16, and oh my God, remember this conversation, because you're going to have the same one. So, of course, what I think if my daughter ever does that, what I think is, I must have done that 1,000,000 times to my mother. So, whatever your children give you earned it. You give it to your parents, so you earn it. So, your father or mother says, let's talk. You know what they're going to say, and you say, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear it. You should do that. I don't want to hear about it. Don't tell me. The same thing happens in Krishna consciousness. If I become attached to doing something, and I know if I listen to the words of my guru, I listen to words of Prabhupada, I'm not going to want to do it, but I want to do it, so I don't want to hear anything that would in any way minimize my desire to do it. I just don't want to hear it. So then what happens? Intelligence shuts. It's necessary. It's actually necessary. If you want to be in Maya, a necessary ingredient for Maya is you have to shut off your intelligence. That intelligence, what flap, not a flap, a lever. The intelligence lever has to shut. The intelligence latch has to shut. Okay, no more intelligence. Now, go act like an idiot. Go enjoy whatever it is. And then you can come back crying and lamenting. And then your intelligence, sometimes you have to cry and lament, and then the intelligence, the intelligence flap opens after you suffer. Why did I do that? I'm so stupid. Now, something that we need to deal with is, we were saying, when you do something you shouldn't do, you feel bad. That's true. But have you ever done something and said, I was so stupid, I should never do this again, and then done it again? That even feels worse, doesn't it? What is really more painful than having told yourself 108 times, I'm never going to do that again, and you do it the 109th time? That's painful. That's the intelligence flap. Just because why? I become attached to doing it, intelligence shuts off. I become detached, intelligence opens. So if you're ever understanding why you should become detached, it's so your brain can actually work. Because when we see this with non-devotees sometimes, you're talking to them, and sometimes you feel like you're trying to explain why they shouldn't eat meat or drink, and they don't get it at all. They're like, what are you talking about? I love meat. The animals, they don't care. They're put on the earth for us, and, everybody drinks, and this is how I cope, and I have a good time. And you're trying to make sense to them, and it's like nothing. They don't get it, right? That's what attachment does. It makes your brain, I don't know, turn into jello or something. It's like all the buttons in the brain go in the off position, and then you're hearing, and it's like, no, no, no. So you don't want to be in that position. So Krishna consciousness. Okay, today's class is entitled Krishna consciousness means to keep the flap open. Or we'll make a t-shirt and everyone will say, what does that mean? And then you can give them a 20-minute lecture. Oh, let me explain my t-shirt. The flap is your intelligence. When the flap closes, you have no intelligence. What triggers the opening is attachment. When you become attached to something and you know what's wrong. Everybody can relate to this. It's 100% relatable. So why would you want to torture yourself in doing something you know is wrong, or worse, continually doing it after having promised yourself, I'm never going to do this again. This was so bad. I will never do this again. And then next Thursday at 3 o'clock, you do it again. What could be more painful than that? So don't torture yourself. And here, Dhritarashtra is saying something which is really like, what I would say, it reflects on his material attachment. He said, whatever happens is going to happen. I can't give it up. But it also can reflect for some people on low self-esteem. I don't care. I don't deserve it. I'll suffer. I just, right now I want to enjoy, and if I suffer, I just deserve it, and I don't care. That also happens. Dhritarashtra was just attached, like whatever's going to happen. I cannot stop myself. Okay. We are all fortunate because we can stop ourselves, because we have a process which can stop it. The holy name, the sadhana, the hearing, the sangha. We can actually stop ourselves. So if you ever say, I can't stop myself, all I would say is, you need to find out the process. You need to find out the means. You need to find out the way. There is a way to stop yourself. At least there is a way to get on the path to eventually stopping yourself. That's the point. So, all glories to Dhritarashtra. We have learned an immensely important lesson from him, and we haven't even, and that was only one little thing we read. And now there's so many comments going on. It's time for read the comments, which usually take about 40 minutes to get through. And I wanted to read more. Let me read something else. Let's read the next paragraph. We have to, it's so important to hear from Prabhupada. We'll read. We read this before. It's like, for me personally, I need to read something 3 times before I start to not understand it, but remember what I read. So I think this will be the second time we read this. So the next paragraph. So people become, when they want to satisfy their senses, they become mad, pramata. So in this madness, they do everything. Just like we have got many instances in this material life that sometimes when one is too much after something, he commits some criminal action, commits even murder. He cannot check himself. Similarly, we are being accustomed to sense gratification. We are mad, and therefore our mind is fully absorbed in karma. So the madness that Prabhupada is referring to is from the verse that he's quoting next. And so we'll quote that verse. It's from Rishabdev, Nunam pramata kurute vikarma. Pramata means mad. Yad indriyaya pritai, yet indriya pritai aprinoti. A person becomes mad when they don't control their senses. That's maybe not the common psychological definition of madness, but that's the Shastric definition of madness. If you can't control your senses, you're a madman because you will do things which are self-destructive, and if you're destroying yourself, that's a symptom of madness. Raise your hand if you're mad. Okay, it looks like we've got 100% of your hands raised. Have you ever done something that's self-destructive? Oh, if you have, you are a qualified madman or mad woman. Welcome to the club. I think every living entity on this planet is in the club. Okay, so let's read the verse. This is 554. We all have so many things in common. We're all crazy. And we even use that language, right? I'm mad about this. I'm mad about that. Isn't that interesting? I just thought of that. That is so funny. I think there's a play or a movie. I'm mad about something. What does I'm mad about mean? It means like I have to have it. I go crazy. This is so important for me. I love this so much. There's the verse. We're reading the verse that is the foundation for the statement, I'm mad about you. I'm just mad about this city. I'm mad about this food. It drives you. You can't control yourself. Okay, so let's read the verse. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. That's another, you become mad. Do something sinful by which you're going to suffer. That's total madness. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Dun, 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 dun. It's time. Okay, little dramatic effect here. It's time for your next material body. You've been awarded a new body. You've just taken birth. Ta-da. Oh, it's so cute. Yeah. Why are you still here, you fool? You took birth again. What's wrong with you? This is your reward for being stupid. That's it. Okay, that's like heavy. The Bhaktisiddhanta said, the sadhu, he cuts, takes out his knife, sharpens it up and cuts. Yeah, so babies are so cute and lovely. And then Bhakta Burfi comes in and says, yeah, that's your reward. You've been rewarded for being a nonsense in your last life. Yeah, you all think he's cute? Yeah, he's a nonsense. That's why he has a body. If he wasn't a nonsense, he would have already gone back to Godhead. He's not cute. He's not cute. Okay. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, here's the conclusion, everyone, pay attention. I think it is not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. This preaching has made more men become brahmacharis than anything else. Like, what are you doing with your life? Your sense gratification is ruining you. Why don't you just join us, live in the temple? So many men became devotees because of preaching like this. Yes, it's true. How do you get someone with beautiful hair and 20 years old in the prime of their life just shave their head and put on a bed sheet and go out on the street and jump up and down? How do you get them to do that? This verse. This verse will do it. Yeah. In the prime of your life, when you could enjoy like anything, you give it all up. How did that happen? Okay, I'm going back to the beginning to see the comments. All glories to all of you. Thank you for attending. I even got an applause. Wow. That's really encouraging. Okay. Sounds better. Sounds better, yeah. You know what sounds better? Because this was not plugged in before. As I told you, this microphone was bought maybe 18 years ago to mic an acoustic guitar, but it works It works as a video mic. When I do my videos, I have the mic up like this, and I'm speaking like this, and you don't see it. And then I read somewhere that these are very good mics for making videos, and these shotgun mics for making videos can be quite expensive. And these were just lying around my studio. What a discovery! Yeah, so we are going to tell the story of Ratnavali. Who manages my Facebook? I wish I knew. Radhapriya puts up posts for advertising, probably Guru Nishta. I don't know. We're trying to work out a system of software where we have the listing of everyone who's helping me in my preaching. But the only thing that's missing is the person who's going to read it. So you're going to give it to me and go, here, Mahatma Prabhu, here's the list. All the devotees do what they're doing. And I'll never have time to look at it. That's the problem. So we need the CEO of Mahatma Unlimited Incorporated. Any volunteers? Please step forward. Send me your application. Okay. We go down the list. If I don't start from the top, then Krishna Karshani is going to tell me, you missed my question, because she might often ask the question first, and they don't always go up. So that I went to the top. But she was not the first today to ask the question. It was Tanya. I find that what I fear most when making decisions is my own inability to properly judge the situation and the best way to proceed, especially when I get conflicting advice from more advanced devotees and loved ones. What should we do in times of such doubts? I give a general answer. I don't know specifics. Every situation may be different. One amazing answer, and this will depend on the consequences of your decision, but one amazing answer that I found that works really well, that can help us get off the mental platform. If you're on this position where you don't do anything because you can't decide, I don't know if I should do this or that, obviously at some point you have to make a decision. And the only way to know if that decision was actually the best decision is to make it. Now, I wouldn't advise doing that in marriage. Well, I don't know if I should marry this guy. Well, let me just do it, and if it doesn't work, then I'll know it was a bad decision. So obviously, we can't do it with that. But in some situations, that's the only way to do it. We get advice not to do it. We don't know. If the ramifications are not serious or too serious, then we just think, okay, I have to make a decision. Otherwise, I'll never make a decision. And by making a decision, then I'll understand. I'll know. Ooh, I forgot to plug this in. Hold on. This is going to die. Hold on. I have to find something. Yeah, it's around. Anyway, so that's one way of dealing with it. Don't go away. There's something I need. Which I just found. And if I plug this in, then the battery is not running out. I forgot in my haste. So that's one way. I think, sometimes what's so funny, you'll have these people who are really, really wealthy. They discovered, some way to make money. They just have a brain for it, right? And they'll be advertising, I can teach you how to do it. And they'll say, look at, I make infinitely more money than any Harvard professor at business school. Like, I can run circles around them. So who do you want to learn from? The professor or the person who actually knows how to do it? So sometimes we get advice from people who are very learned, but they're also people who've actually done the thing you want to do. So and they've done it well. Or maybe they totally failed and they could tell you what not to do. Or they've done it very successfully. They can tell you what to do. So you may want to be a little selective on who you take advice from. People who maybe are more relatable to your situation. That's there. And sometimes you just have to meditate on it and pray and not make a decision. And pray and see how Krishna inspires you. Or find someone you can trust absolutely. And just say, I trust you so much, what you say I will do. That's also there. That's pretty simple. That's called guru. Just makes it easy. But you also have your own intuition, your own intelligence. Even sometimes your guru will tell you to do something and you'll come back and say, I thought about it and I'm thinking this would be better, and discuss it. So that's there also. That's the best I can give you for now. If I knew the actual situation, maybe it would be easier to answer, but those are some ways. Practice what you preach. Okay, now, Nikhil, I do this and whatever happens will happen. I feel you are directly speaking to me. Thank you. When you feel like I'm directly speaking to you, what we're really speaking to is the conditioned tendency of all living entities in this world. We're speaking to that conditioned tendency. So as conditioned souls, we have those tendencies. So that's why it sounds like I'm speaking to you, because Nikhil, you are a bona fide conditioned soul. And as a bona fide conditioned soul, we are speaking directly to you. But we're all bona fide conditioned souls. We've practiced many years, and that's why we're bona fide. We've had lifetimes of practice of being conditioned souls, so we are all bona fide. Here's your stamp. Today I want to stamp you bona fide conditioned soul. But now you've become devotees, and we want to take and stamp bona fide devotees. We want to replace your new branding for you, Nikhil. Bona fide devotee. We're going to erase the other one, bona fide conditioned soul. On your forehead, bona fide devotee. Yeah. So, when you say, I don't care what will happen, it's really, I think what would be helpful for us is to kind of translate our statements into what we're really saying. Because I think a lot of the statements we make them to kind of hide what the reality is. Yeah, whatever happens, happens. What does that actually mean? It means I'm an idiot, basically. That's what it means. That I don't care what happens. Or it almost means like, I know things are like going to be bad if I do this, or whatever, I'll just deal with it. That doesn't make sense. So you want to be more explicit about what you're actually saying, and that will help you. I know this is not good, but I'm going to do it because I want to, and whatever happens, happens. And so, rephrase that and say, and just look at it and say, that is a very stupid thing I just said. That does not make any sense. And it's like I've just taken a knife and shot my head off because I'm going to kill myself. I've just said, what I'm going to do is going to destroy me, and I don't care. They'll just stand back and look at it and analyze it and say, wait a minute, that is really dumb, what I just said. Because if we don't do that, and we're just like, oh, I'm going to do it, I want to do it, I like to do it, my rationale is, feels good, do it, and whatever happens, I'll think about it later. Hridayananda Maharaj gave an example. It's so funny. Long ago gave this example, and I love it, and I would like to relate it to you with your permission, to have your permission to relate it. Thank you. He said, the girl brings a boy home to the house, and they come through the living room, and they want to go to the bedroom, of course, to be alone. And the father says, no, just stay down here in the living room. I won't bother you. Just stay here. And so the father's reading the newspaper. He said, I won't bother you. I'm just reading the newspaper. They want to go to the bedroom. He won't let them. So Hridayana Maharaj said, Krishna's like the father. And it's like, so when the father's there, you can't do anything wrong. You can't do anything sinful. You can't do all the things you wanted to do in the bedroom. So we always want to go to the bedroom for sense gratification. So we don't want the father. We want to get out of the living room. So I don't want the shastra. I don't want the guru. I want this. I just want to enjoy. Yeah, that is really unfortunate if we think like that. But sometimes it's like that, right? Isn't it? Admit it. It's true. Krishna Karshani is going to make Krishna Karshani is going to make a, what's the word I'm looking for? Confession. Krishna Karshani, were you raised Catholic? You must have been raised Catholic because you're making a confession. I have to admit that I accept myself the way I am with all my imperfections. I realize that I feel more inspired to improve myself when I give love and acceptance to myself. Oh, that's a good confession. It's not really a confession. Well, we'll call it a confession, but I agree with that. I think that's good. I noticed that the guilt is not helping me at all. Maybe a little bit of guilt, but I believe that Krishna is accepting the way we are, even if we're not perfect. Could you explain the difference between healthy and unhealthy self-acceptance? Because it seems that self-acceptance might be a kind of trap and may make us stay the same and not go further. Yeah. So this refers to the point we were making before about incremental improvement and the point of having the goal. And so the first thing that Prabhupada explained is you have to accept what the goal is. You can't deny that this is the goal. You might say, well, I'm not ready for that goal. That's fine. I'm not ready for it. But don't poo-poo. This is a word we use in English, poo-poo. Poo-poo, the goal means, yeah, who cares? It's, nobody can do that and so forth. No, this is the standard which we want to achieve. So we have to start there. What is the standard that someday my Guru Maharaj would like me to achieve? And so rather than saying I can never do it, we can say I can't do it now. So self-acceptance is, okay, I realize that I'm not on that level. I can't do it now. But what can I do today that's a little more than I did yesterday to get a fraction of an inch closer, or a fraction of a millimeter, or a centimeter? Millimeter? Centimeter. A fraction of a centimeter closer to, okay, a millimeter. Millimeter is smaller, right, than a centimeter. A fraction of a millimeter closer to that. So it begins with acknowledging that that's the goal, not rationalizing it, but accepting on the continuum of achieving that goal, okay, I'm situated here, and I have to accept that. I think the problem, Krishna Karshani, is if we don't try our best. That is the fault. Because how could you fault anyone who's trying their best? We all have limitations. It's when someone is not trying their best, then that's where self-acceptance can become an impediment. Self-acceptance is very helpful because it avoids all the negativity that could come up when you realize that you're far from the goal. But it can have a negative effect if you think that's as far as I can go. Or you just become lazy and you don't try and just, okay, well, I've made peace with myself, so now I don't have to try. That would be a problem. And my point was, it's in the trying that the real satisfaction comes in the trying. Not even so much in achieving the goal, but the satisfaction comes in knowing that I'm trying my best. Just like sometimes we try our best to chant well, but it's not happening. It doesn't always happen. We're not in control of the result. But the fact is that we're trying the best we feel. We feel good about that, isn't it? I'm not doing well at this. I'm practicing, I'm learning, but I feel good that I'm trying my best. So that's important. That's if self-acceptance creates if it just ends your struggle to be better, that would be really counterproductive. It wouldn't be that much better, in a sense, because the self-hating holds you down. But the self-acceptance, if it becomes a kind of ignorant tamaguna-ish satisfaction, then it's a problem. Prabhupada said something funny. He said there's two kinds of persons in the material world that are satisfied. He said the paramhamsa, or the two kinds of people that are happy, or you say happy and satisfied. The paramhamsa is happy and satisfied, and the person in the mode of ignorance is happy and satisfied. So, you might say, well, I'm happy and satisfied, so that means I'm Krishna conscious. It could mean you're in the mode of ignorance. It's possible. Right? Drunkards seem to be happy, satisfied. They're living on the street, and they're like, okay. They haven't taken a bath in a long time. They're okay. So, and sometimes a drunkard looks like an avadut, doesn't care. Disheveled hair, dirty clothes. Oh, he's transcendental. He's beyond the modes of nature. No, he's below the modes of nature. Sometimes I look at people and I wonder, I say, this person is so low. I wonder if there's a fourth mode of nature Krishna hasn't told about in the Gita. Or sometimes I hear some music and I think, there must be a fourth mode of nature because that music is like really low. And it makes me feel like I just descended into the fourth mode of nature. Of course, we know there's only three, but it makes me feel like there's one underneath all of those. So self-acceptance, it could end up actually being something caused by the mode of ignorance. So, as long as it's caused by the mode of goodness, it's going to keep pushing you forward. But if it's caused by the mode of ignorance, it's just going to push you down. So that's important to understand. Very good question. Marco from Italia has a question from Mahatma Prabhu. I think it is necessary first establish our goal. Yes, Paramgati in KC, in Krishna consciousness. And to achieve it, we should be willing to do anything in terms of strictly following. Yes, sadhana. He's answering the question you asked. It seems, whoops, I went too far. Achieve it, we should be willing to do anything in terms of strictly following sadhana, keeping our vows, developing virtues such as compassion, humility, and forgiveness, putting ourselves with heart and soul to achieve our spiritual goal. It seems a little selfish, but I think it is preparatory and useful for our spiritual growth. Yes, but I would only say that what doing your best may not be the same as someone else doing their best. So, putting ourselves with heart and soul to achieve our spiritual goal. Yeah, that's the point Prabhupada makes in the Gita, and it's such a beautiful point because Prabhupada's addressing the very question, Krishna Karshani, that you asked. Like, what if you can't do it? And Prabhupada's saying, as long as you're accepting the goal, you're not denying this is the goal, you're not rationalizing it away, you're not in some way compromising it, and then it's okay. You'll get there. I think the only time that I saw Prabhupada being extremely heavy was when someone promised to do something and they didn't do it. So let's say I'm trying to achieve something. This is my goal. Whatever. Okay. Well, let's say I'm not chanting 16 rounds a day and my goal is to chant 16. So I'm doing my best and I have a strategy and I figure within 6 months or a certain amount of time, I'll be able to chant 16 rounds. And so everyone will say, okay, that's fine, that's great. I don't live in the temple, so it's not required. And I'm not initiated, so I didn't vow to do it. So everyone will say, yeah, do your best. That's the goal. Try to come to it. The problem is, at least I've seen with Prabhupada, and with many, this is also going to be a problem, with many of the gurus. The problem is when you vow to do it and then you don't. It's a much different situation. So I'm trying to chant 16 rounds. Okay, how many are you chanting? I'm chanting 8, next month 9, next month 10. In 8 months I'll be up to 16. Okay, that's great. Everyone will be happy. But if you've taken initiation yesterday and then you say, I'm trying to chant 16, how many did you chant the day of initiation? Oh, I chanted 8. No one's going to be happy because you made a vow. So that's where this answer changes a little bit from I'm trying my best to no, this is what you committed to. So if you're committing to, it's like your husband comes home one day, Krishna Karshani, and he says, Krishna Karshani, I'm trying my best not to, have another girlfriend, not to have a second wife. I'm trying my best. I don't know. What do you would think? What would you think? Trying your best? What are you talking about? Trying your best? You're my husband. There is no other woman. Yeah, but it's hard, and I'm only human, and you got to be self-accepting, and I just have to acknowledge that I'm like this. And you can't say that. Once you, then all that other stuff is like, okay, that was okay before you proposed to me. You worked that stuff out before, but after it's supposed to be worked out. So I think that's an important factor. Of course, then the next question is, but what if I thought I worked it out, but afterwards I realized I didn't? Then all you can do is work it out again as quickly as you can to get back there. So I don't want to say Prabhupada condemned people who couldn't follow, but he was, I would say, concerned. Well, let's use another word. Extremely concerned that you would make a promise and not follow it. So that's something. Okay, we made the promise, we were young, we didn't know what we were doing, etc., etc. There is some rationale there, but at the same time, this was what Prabhupada wanted. So that's an extension of the answer to Krishna Karshani's question. I have a 15 and 16-year-old girls. Oh my Govinda, it's so tough to communicate with them. I get so stressed. Oh, it's easy to communicate. You know how you do it? You don't. That solves the whole problem. You already know what they're going to say. They don't want to be told. They're at the age where they're like tired of being told. Just defensive. You may have to preface your statements with something sugar-coated. Welcome to parenthood. Annie Katekar says, Katekar, do we sometimes use our intelligence to justify what we're doing? Often we would say, no, it's your mind. But it's interesting because Krishna says lust can inhabit intelligence, which is kind of scary because we normally think, well, intelligence would control the mind. So the mind is the resting place for so many bad qualities. And we think, well, at least I have intelligence. But sometimes the mind and intelligence become partners in crime. So it's true. That were intelligent. Look at all the bad things that were done intelligently. So it's a different kind of intelligence. It's a material intelligence. But spiritual intelligence would not give in to that. But material intelligence could be in cohorts, consorts, accomplices in crime. So, Annie, my realization is it's just dangerous to have a body and a mind. And my best advice is get out of the material body and mind, and then all these problems will be non-existent, and we won't even have to have classes like this anymore. We could just talk about Leela. So, when we look at the predicaments we're in the material world, at least I like to think, this is a predicament. And the way I got into this predicament is I made a wrong choice, and now I got a body. And just to realize that this body and mind is not as great as maybe we thought it was before we were devotees. And then, use that as an impetus to think, this was really a bad deal. I never realized what a bad deal it is until I became a devotee. Many people don't realize, having a body is a bad deal. They think, having a body is great because it's your source of enjoyment. But for a devotee, our source of enjoyment is not the body. And then because it's not the body, we can actually look at the body and see what it is. And if the source of your enjoyment is the body, you can't see what the body is. You can't sit back and say, this is a bad bargain. Being inside a body, I can't get out of this thing until, my karma is over and I leave this body. Before that, I have to be stuck into it. And if I don't like my mother-in-law or my children are creating problems or my boss is harassing me or I have a weak stomach, whatever, that's just what I have. As long as I'm in the body, I have to tolerate that. So it's not bad to see it that way. The non-devotees generally won't see it that way. They may have an inclination, but generally, it takes, at least I could say for us it's easier. I can't say they won't see it that way. Always, some will as well, but for us it's kind of natural. Especially when you start experiencing pleasure that's not coming from your body, then you realize, this is really where it's at. This is real happiness. Not the bodily happiness. It doesn't compare. So, yes, the answer is, unfortunately, yes, sometimes the intelligence becomes contaminated and it becomes a co-conspirator with the mind to do mischief. What a precarious situation we're in. And now we're going down, 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 down. And Divya Singha says, being always ready for a change of gati, goal, by Guru Anugatya, by following the goals of the Guru. Live only one purpose, Guru Goragati, Sharan Nagati, takes. Yes. That's what we're trying to come to. In theory, when you become a devotee, it's like, okay, that chapter of my life, before I was a devotee, it's over, it's finished. Now, it's just Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, only Krishna. We are also mad. Pramita. We're Pramita with Krishna. That's the goal. Of course, it may take time. It may not happen in the day. But that's the goal. Only Krishna. We're injecting Krishna into everyone's heart. Why not our heart as well? Only Krishna. Only Krishna. Sri Radha. Sri Radha. We have Sri Radha. We have your name. You didn't come for the wedding, but we have your name written on some trees. Someday I want to do some videos out there and you can see the trees. And your name is on the trees, like in 5 places. It says Sri Radha with a blue line, and Sri Radha in red with blue circle and a white circle inside the blue circle on your name. So we have Vrindavan in our backyard. It's so cool. It's so nice to go and see that. I want to see if I can make some video, but I have to lug my camera and everything and eat insects while I make videos, and you're going to hear all these noises and lawn mowers and trucks and to find the right spot, the right time of day. But maybe one day, when I'm in the right mood and there's time, I'll lug all my stuff, or if you're Jewish, schlepp it, and I'll make a bunch of videos there in Sri Radha's garden. So, this class is super helpful. When I first moved into the temple, I had so much guilt for feeling I couldn't keep up with everything. When I worked for IBM, I had the pride that I felt I was doing more than anyone there. Now at the temple, though, not at the temple, though. Devotees here are incredible in their sadhana and seva. I got so upset that I couldn't keep up. This is so common. It's like, in material world, I'm number one. Now I have to get a sound for you, Sri Radha. If there's a sound effect for not being number one. Let's see. We need like something like... Let's see if we have a sound for you. In the material world, I was number one. Then I became a devotee. I'm just like a barking dog. I feel like a barking dog. Or a horse. No, horses are pretty cool. That's supposed to be a ghost. I became a devotee. I thought I was number one. And I saw all these great devotees, and now I feel just like this. No, that's the deflation of your false ego. Yeah, okay, let's turn that up, everyone. I became a devotee, and then I thought I was the best thing since apple pie to hit America. And then my false ego was deflated. You know what that's called, Sri Radha? It's called the pain of humility. It's like, who in the material world wants to be humble? The pain of humility. That's deep. It goes deep in the heart. I don't know if I can take it. Before I became a devotee, I thought I was the top dog. Yeah, you were the top dog. That's the problem. You didn't realize the top means the top dog. When I became a devotee, I realized, actually, I thought I'm just a dog. And the pain of humility pierced my heart, and it was difficult to deal with. Yeah, okay, so we're having some fun here. We're always a millimeter closer to Anatha. Okay, Sri Radha continues. I see myself wanting to be an idiot once a week to remind myself and learn for the next week. It's like a week cycle for some things. Maybe we should start a Facebook page, right? An idiot for the week. Be an idiot this week. Or other things. Remind myself. Feels awful after... like to do it, like overeat, stay up late. Yeah, so the more you remind yourself of these things, one day, Sri Radha, you're going to wake up and you're going to go, that's it, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yeah. So your desire, like you say, I need to have a stronger desire to change. That's one thing. And the other one is you get smashed. Enough, long enough, that you just say, okay, that's it, I'm going to not do this. Okay, now class is over, and I didn't get to tell you the story. So I want to tell you the highlight from this story. So we can talk more about this story. But anyway, Ratnavali is a woman a female devotee born in an Indian family in London. And she had all these visions we'll have to read the story, but to make a long story short, she had this tendency, these hunches or these visions, that she was a brahmachari in London in her past life. And she went and did the research. And she found, and she even found how he died in a car accident, and the parts of his body that were cut open in the accident, she has damage on her body and weakness there. Just in case you don't believe these stories. It'd make a great movie. But we'll read more about it tomorrow. But the highlight was, this is amazing. And it's just icing on the cake for everything we've been discussing about leaving your body. Her Guru Maharaj, I don't know if he was serious or he was being funny or maybe a little of both. So she's an Indian woman, and she said, Guru Maharaj, this is what I discovered. Here's the evidence. It's past life regression. I know all these places. I've had recurring dreams. Like she has all these recurring dreams of things that happen. And she interviewed people who knew him. Can you tell me about him? And her Guru Maharaj said, so who was the woman you were attached to? Because he was a brahmachari and he took birth as a woman. She took birth as an Indian woman in London. And here is the amazing thing. By her research, she found out that this young man was attached to a young, or she's not young anymore, this is 1972 or 73, he was attached to a young Indian girl named Satyavati. This girl didn't know he was attached to her. But he was attached to her, and he died in a car accident. And obviously you'll say, well, why would he think of her at the time of death? Well, if he died in a car accident, it was probably instantaneously. And she was probably situated in his heart on some level and very attached. So when I read that, I thought, this is amazing, because she took birth as an Indian woman in London, and the girl that he was attached to in the past life was an Indian girl in London. When I read that, I said, I have to share this with all of you. This is like really amazing. Because we're reading philosophy, but here it's like it pins it on the head. It's going, no, this is exactly what happens. So I started thinking, wow, watch out what you're attached to. I mean, that was it. He was attached to an Indian girl, a Gujarati Indian girl in London, and she took birth as a Gujarati Indian girl in London. Wow, that is amazing. Hare Krishna. Isn't it? And when they asked Prabhupada what happened to him, he said, he will have another chance at Krishna consciousness. So I want to end with that, because that's an amazing thing to end with. And you should always end on a high point, right? If I say anything more, it will be lower than that. So we're going to end on a high point. And we will take time tomorrow to talk more about this story. Thank you for all attending. I think we learned something today, worthwhile. And we will see you tomorrow. Yeah. Nothing else happening today, I don't think. Hare Krishna. A question from Anastasia. Oh no, is it true that it's impossible to be successful in material and spiritual life simultaneously? Of course you can be successful in everything. Why not? That's up to Krishna. That's up to Krishna. There are many successful devotees, successful in everything they do. But if Krishna doesn't want it, it won't happen. So, okay, thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.